This is Gaurav Kapoor from Indegene. A very, very warm welcome to all joining us from across the world to our day 2 of the Digital Summit. It's my privilege and honor to welcome Hervé Gisserot. Hope, Hervé, I did the right pronunciation.
Very good, Gaurav.
As our keynote speaker. I know it's super busy time at CSLY4. I'm so sincerely obliged, for you taking our time and joining us on this forum. Hervé is a general manager at CSLY4. He brings in 30 years of pharma healthcare experience in multiple therapeutic areas. He was the chief commercial officer at Y4 before taking over the role as general manager. He's had multiple roles at GSK, Sanofi, and Fournier before this. Vast experience in building businesses across US, Europe, and Asia Pac. He and I have had several conversations on how do you really do digital for not the sake of digital, but actually to drive business transformation. And it's always intrigued me what he the passion he brought in. So I thought it'd be great for him to share his thoughts. Now over to you, Hervé, to walk us through your views. And now at the end we will, if we have time, we will take a couple of questions. Thank you, and over to you.
Thanks a lot, Gaurav. Hi, everyone. Good to be with you today. Let's have a look at the first slide. So as Gaurav said, I'm not the youngest in this industry. I started in my first company, Fournier, at the end of the 80s, early 90s. My nickname was Mr. Post-it. So as you can hear, we were not yet in the digital era. But of course, like everyone attending this conference, in the last 10 years for sure, the digital journey has become a very critical part of our business strategy. I'm clearly not a digital native. I'm a digital adapter. And if you move to the next slide, I was very invitation from Gaurav a few weeks back, to be invited as a keynote speaker at the Digital Summit was a bit of the wildest dream I had. I'm reaching probably today the peak of my career, and maybe I should retire tonight with almost a Nobel Prize. But more seriously, if you move to the next slide, I've made, like many of you, I guess, many mistakes in my life as a leader when focusing on digital matters. And in fact, interestingly, I've not made these mistakes only once, but often, unfortunately, 2 or 3 times. So it was a quite costly program, lots of time invested, probably a limited return on the investment versus our initial expectations. But at least the p-value of the 5 learnings, next slide, I would like to share with you now is probably statistically highly significant. So let me start with the first one, which is probably the most important one. But I'm sure that many of you with me that we have to make our digital strategy really product-centric. There is no doubt that pharma overall is lagging behind other industries in the digital space. And why is it the case? I mean, it's multifactorial as always. Maybe the fact that our target audience, primarily HCPs, is quite small, and we can still engage face-to-face. We also have high margins in our industry, so maybe there was not the same burning platform or sense of urgency, digital, and probably many other reasons. But I think we are all acutely aware for a number of years that we are lagging behind, and it's time to become much more proactive and forward-looking. So digital strategies usually come from the very top of company CEO really deciding to invest more, make some significant appointments like a chief digital officer, and most of the time digital is now very visible on the corporate strategy as one of the key pillars. And there is obviously nothing wrong with that. It has to be done. And there is a side effect. And the side effect is that often, as a consequence of this very top-down driven digital strategy, the digital strategy has almost a life on its own. And as a consequence, there is a limited business impact. We sell medicines. Obviously, we don't sell digital services. So who is to blame in that case? It will be extremely easy to say it's IT because IT owns the digital strategy. No, it is not IT. I think people to blame when companies face this situation are much more people like me. And when I look back, the real root cause of this issue is, in my view, the fact that too many business leaders, certainly myself for too many years, I was more an observer, or I was the cheerleader of the digital strategy, but I was not the owner either. And the tipping point, I have to say, was really at GSK, when we took the decision at global pharma leadership team level that all the initiatives had to be very, very clearly linked with the product priority. For example, a product launch in a given country, doing the launch plan with the end-to-end digital strategy in mind. So this first learning, I guess it's common sense, but it was certainly not for a number of years common practice. I think things have improved now, but I still believe in improvement. The second learning, if you move to the next slide, is about what I call the piloting madness. We have to stop it. That's probably another side effect of the top-down strategy. You see people to be politically really multiplying pilots to feed, in fact, the digital beast and somewhat the next board paper. And of course, digital at first glance, even for people like me, is sexy, and leaders across the organization love having, of course, to support their business, but also somewhat maybe to profile themselves. And these pilots, in my observations, are not always linked with the clear business priorities, as I have said. They are, from time to time, poorly integrated into the marketing or the investment mix. The pre-assess the success of the pilot are not always clear, to say the least. And maybe, and very importantly, most of the time, even if the pilot is successful, the pilot is not really scalable for many different reasons. Again, systems, the buy-in from the rest of the organization, and so forth. I have to say, and Gaurav, I do apologize for that maybe digital companies here can help a bit more, because often when we have conversations, you come with a new idea and a new idea and a new idea. And I think in the digital space, as it is the case in every other space, instead of moving to the next idea, we have to focus probably more, with more discipline, on the quality of execution. And also with digital, the problem is that what I've experienced, starting with myself, is that from time to time, we drop our eyes off the other commercial fundamentals. So in my view, yes, of course, we have to pilot, and I will get back to that before we scale up. But we need certainly to be cautious of the number of pilots, and less is more, as often in our business life. Moving to the third learning, which is, of course, very much interlinked with what I just said, we have to synchronize our digital efforts globally. Here, I'm certainly stating the obvious for many of you who have this technical skills in the digital space. But, it's not that I want to refrain in any way local initiatives. Local initiatives are absolutely key, because our customers are on the ground in various geographies. But we have to frame and amplify these local initiatives. And the only way to do coordinations. I think we have too many builders, workers, doers in the digital world, and not enough architects in my view. So we need more architects to design a house with especially robust foundations and not just the shiny gadgets, like the flat TV screen versus really investing into a super rock solid basement so that the house won't face digital cracks throughout the life cycle of our programs. So it's all about data, platform, systems. And my point with a very simple example, I knew very little a few years ago about data taxonomy. The word taxonomy was not even known to me. And then I started, of course, working with digital experts in my company. And I understood how critical it was to invest time and money and resources and passion taxonomy to ensure that systems can talk to each other. Yes, it's not the most exciting topic, but if we want to move from data to information across the enterprise, it is certainly the first step to make. That's where the collaboration between digital technology and the business is absolutely critical. Of course, to focus on the right business priorities, but also to ensure that there is the proper capital allocation to move this agenda forward. I think if we invest in these data forms in a coordinated manner with the end user, both internal and external, in mind, digital can be very rapidly a multiplier of all the investments we make versus reaching very quickly a glass ceiling because the foundations are not there. I illustrate that with another example. All companies are more and more global, and global marketing has to generate content at pace in fragments to fuel the digital efforts. And the only way to do that efficiently is to have this end-to-end backbone or infrastructure, because if not, once again, you reach very quickly the limit of your digital efforts. Moving to the next learning, and once again, all these things are very much interdependent. I'm absolutely convinced in space, as it is the case in other areas, we have to go slow to go fast, strategically. It's a bit counterintuitive because as soon as we say digital, it's speed, speed, speed. So we always want to move fast, and we can move fast indeed in the digital space, much faster than in us. But I think as a consequence, in my experience, we put the cart too often before the horse. And we have to articulate, in my view, a strategic roadmap to make sure that we get the best possible return on our investments. I think we have to acknowledge that it is a multi-year journey, even when we get pressure from the board or from the executive team to move faster. We have to acknowledge that this is a multi-year journey and we cannot cut corners. It takes time to move from mono to multi to omni-channel. Understand exactly where we are, at which stage of the journey we are. So we have to understand the capabilities required at each and every step. So in terms of system, people, mindset, resources, so that we can as quickly as possible, close the gaps. So in digital, continuous improvement is critical. It's more about amplification than revolution. And it's not every day that you hear from a Frenchman that it's not about revolution. No, it's really more about digital amplification. And I really believe it is the way to go. Which brings me to the fifth and last learning I would like to share with you today. And at first glance, you can say, okay, Hervé is contradicting himself because he said, go slow to go fast. And now I say, go fast. I think we have to go fast when we move into tactical implementation of the roadmap, because if not, and probably in pharma than in any other industry, we have a tendency to over-engineer things. Why? Many smart people in pharma, and smart people have a tendency to over-engineer things, in my experience. Two, we have lots of resources, people and capital, and we are certainly a data-rich industry. And instead of over-engineering, I think that's a key business rule in my view, which does apply to digital as well, is we have to keep things as simple as possible. And here I would like to share another example from my time at GSK, where with we went to the global pharma leadership team. I was a regional head, and we were in charge of making a recommendation to implement the next best action, so NBA. And our recommendation was, let's sort out in 6 months in markets. And my boss at this point in time, Luke Miles, Chief Commercial Officer at GSK, said to us, no guys, 6 weeks, top 20 markets. And I knew that Luke is the kind of leader pushing. I was a bit destabilized, I have to say, but we took the decision to try the 6 weeks top 20 country approach. But after the meeting, I went to Luke and I said to Luke, look, can you please explain to me why you are putting so much pressure on us? And he said exactly what I just shared with you. If I give you 6 months, Hervé, the teams will over-engineer and we will end up with 25 questions. Many of them won't be directly relevant. It will create system issues and so on and so forth. So we were able to roll out something like 2 or 3 questions in the top 20 markets. And we really started this NBA journey quite successfully, which reminds me that in the digital world, the so-called agile ways of working are probably exactly what we have to do. It's more about sprinting to implement something which makes sense initially, certainly not the final product, and there is probably anyway no final product in the digital world. It's all about continuously improving, but starting with something which is simple enough to be rolled out quickly and improve down the line, step by step by step. So it's all about sprinting, implementing, improving, starting quickly, and maybe killing a few things also in a cheap way because we have this agile approach of digital initiatives. Which brings me to my conclusion. In fact, when I wake up at night thinking about digital, I really feel that we have to reinvent, or maybe invent, in fact, a commercial innovation model in the digital era. It's quite striking to me, after 35 years in this industry, how little the pharma operating model has changed in commercial. You see the science getting more and more complex and offering many new perspectives to bring new medicines to patients. You see almost a science, and certainly becoming more challenging as time goes on. But the commercial model, if you accept the pinch of digital we have everywhere now in our plans, has not fundamentally changed in the last decades. Now, I'm not convinced that a big bang is absolutely needed. I'm not so sure anyway that the industry is absolutely ready for such a big bang. But we have certainly to put in place a way to evolve the model much more rapidly to adjust to the very rapidly environment. And in fact, I'm not yet completely figured that out, but I think it will be smart to implement in commercial what our R&D colleagues do with the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 approach. Phase 1 will be a structured way to pilot things. Phase 2 will be probably more the proof of concept, where we really see that the digital initiative has an impact because it is clearly linked with the business priority. And phase 3 will be the global rollout phase, or at least regional differences, to make sure that we really leverage all the efforts at scale. Let me finish with this aspiration I have not been able to implement yet in my own organization, to give it a try. I hope I did not spend too much time stating the obvious for the vast majority of you. I hope it was a valuable sharing. Thanks for your listening.
Thank you, Hervé. This is very, very useful. And coming from French, the revolution is not required here. Is quite a you brought in some very interesting points. We've got questions. I think we can take a couple of them. One clearly coming in: how do you balance life sciences talent and digital talent? All life sciences people may not have that talent of being digital savvy. So how do you really nurture talent in the company to take them in the journey? Are there any learnings which you have seen over your couple of decades?
Yeah, in fact, if I'm talking really about commercial, I studied myself political science, so I believe you can learn life sciences. In the end, it was certainly for me more difficult to learn the digital science than the life science, because I was not a digital native. Now, the good news is that going forward, I think our talented employees will be digital natives, and I think it will be much easier. Combination of all the above, but in commercial, I really believe that having these digital skills will become absolutely instrumental, because a marketer should be a digital marketer. Point. We should not have people managing digital in parallel. Of course, we still need, very strong IT in this digital world. But marketing has to be, I don't know if it is 3.0 or 4.0. I do expect my marketers to all be digital marketers.
No, yeah. And one last question. So you coming out of COVID now, there's been a lot of, obviously, discussions, Pfizer and multiple companies going out and saying that there will be new commercial models which will be part of their fabric. You are also, I know you're also designing your next 5-year, 7-year, 10-year kind of journey. So coming out of this whole new are there new thoughts which have changed over the last 12 months which you're kind of looking at very seriously, Hervé, which could be a good learning for people joining here?
Yeah, I mean, I am certainly even more convinced post-COVID that we can accelerate the digital journey, because we are all ready for it. And by the way, not just we, pharma, but also our customers, because I'm not so sure that pre-COVID, all the customers, some of them were already very excited about this omni-channel approach and the pull versus the push model, which is the historical model of pharma. Pharma is a push model. Historically, in the digital era, we can offer a much better experience to our customers through the pull model. But I think there was not every customer was so excited about it. Now I think we are all ready in the ecosystem, which is an opportunity to offer a better experience to customers, to drive our message, and probably to make overall our business also more successful and more efficient. So I really believe that the post-COVID world is a world of opportunities in that regard.
Thank you, Hervé. Well, I know we are over time, but I want to sneak in one more last question. Is there anything for us from a KPIs point of view? I've seen senior leadership, some of them talking about customer experience, somebody talking about business KPIs. So there are leading indicators and there are some hard indicators. When you're working with your team, where are you pushing? What is there a lead and a strong hard indicator? What do you measure on?
I think we absolutely need both. No doubt that we need lead measures and lag measures, and if we can really have relevant KPIs, helping us to understand what is the impact of what we do in terms of customer experience, that's fantastic. It's probably not sufficient, but it is certainly very critical. So as always, it's a combination. My view is that we have to limit, however, the number of KPIs, because we are KPI we are obsessed industry at times, because we are data rich. So for me, the question is not about lead or lag, but to really make sure we only focus on the few super relevant KPIs at different levels in the organization, which is not the same, of course, at my level versus a brand manager. But I really believe we need both, and we need to limit the number of KPIs we use to make.
Thank you, Hervé. Thank you so much. This is very useful. I'll let you go, and wish you all the best for the what you were building for the future.
Yeah, thanks, Gaurav, for attending this conference and listening to my thoughts. Bye-bye.
Thank you.